Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you feeling today? I'm kind of feeling like it's a rather chill morning. I slept well after Hero Quest last night. Glad I pulled that one off. I appreciate everybody who was there with me last night. It was a lot of fun. And hey, if you didn't see it last night, we had a great game of Hero Quest last night on Dinner and a Board Game. Fantastic. So I'm feeling kind of chill today. I'm feeling like today's going to be a good reset kind of day. I've needed a good reset day in a while. Hey, Stray. James is here, and Zero the Blade. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I thought, because I was just feeling kind of chill, I was like, I really don't want to dig into anything too deep. I was looking at my list this morning, and I was going, what do I want to take a look at? And what do I have readily available? But, we've been meaning to get into this one. This is not an unboxing that's new, because I've had this box for a little while. But we've talked about taking a look at the GURPS Dungeon Fantasy. And so I thought now would be a good time to check it out. So that's what I got here. I thought, you know what? We'll just sit here and chill and take a look at what's inside this box. I hope everybody is doing great. I was checking out, let's see. Oh, I'm not even ready on my other screen. but I was just checking out the Goodnight Sword. Hang on. Oh, thank you, Stray, for posting the Discord link. Here is the Goodnight Sword Kickstarter. And I've been started to think about what's going to be next. Like, where do I need to go from here? Because I have really got to. My productivity has really been terrible. This month already seems like it's flying by real fast. I felt like the early of this year was going by slowly. There was a lot that was getting done each day. Now I'm feeling like, man, this whole month is about to just blow by, and I've gotten nothing done. But I noticed we had more people come in on the Goodnight Sword Kickstarter. Goodnight Sword is, let's see, where are we? We are up to 38 backers. 38 backers have joined. Thank you to everybody. Thank you very much to everybody who's here on the Morning Grind. I recognize a lot of names. Some I don't, because I'm sure that the names on Kickstarter and the user handles here on the Morning Grind are different. But I really appreciate you all coming out and getting Rabavania started. I need to work more on that world primer. For some reason, like I said, work has not been getting done over the past several weeks. But this is, of course, my children's book, which is the World of Gallantry, Chivalry, and Rabbits, based on the classic story Goodnight Moon. It's the very first thing that's out, first book that's out in Rabavania. It's going to be for the youngest audience. And as we go, we will develop more material for older audiences all the way up through probably young adult. Animated audiobook is on there, so if you want to check it out, there is Brianna De Silva. Brianna De Silva was the one who narrated that, and she also animated it. Adam Botsford, of course, is the illustrator. And so you can check that out here. So thank you to everybody who has already been a part of this. Great to have you. All right, let's go over here, and let me pull up the auxiliary camera. Oh, yes. Thank you, Stray. Yeah, and there is a Tales of Rabavania channel. You know, I need to post the Kickstarter video over there as well. I want to put more stories over there on Rabavania. Let's see. All right. So let's just see what's here. Does anyone have this one? Has anyone been playing this one? We took a brief look at GURPS a while back ago, just understanding its mechanics and how it plays. And then we took a deep dive into GURPS mass combat and GURPS realm management, which was like its domain level play kind of thing. But this came out a while back ago. What's the date on this? And this is one of those things that I've actually never gotten someone to play with me. I thought it was a great idea because I've long said that GURPS is a fantastic system, but the books often seem like they're made more for the game masters than they are for the players. And just by that, I mean that there's a lot of optional rules. There's, all the books have everything from the Stone Age to ultra tech sci-fi stuff. So there's a lot in the books that you don't need for any particular game that you're playing. And so I thought that a good idea was that, well, gee, it's the game masters who really want to dive in those books and can extract like world books from them and tell you just what you need for a certain style of game, a certain feel of game, for a certain genre. And so GURPS, or Steve Jackson Games, did that themselves with Dungeon Fantasy and said, basically, I guess this kind of goes with our old school kind of feel that old school stuff we've been looking at recently, because we've got GURPS. This is GURPS kind of doing old school dungeon crawling. And so they extracted, it's completely self-contained because it's got the powered by GURPS here. So they extracted everything that you need just to play an old school kind of dungeon crawl and stuck it into this box set. Now, originally it started off as a PDF line. There have been some print-on-demand books. I've got some of these other books over here as well that are dungeon fantasy books that I think are largely print-on-demand. But then a while back ago, this was put out, which was this was a Kickstarter for a Dungeon Fantasy box. And we like box sets here. So I figured we would see what's in it. Stray says, GURPS saved Traveler. I don't know anything about Traveler, actually. I mean, I see it a lot on Steve Jackson's site and things like that. But I don't really know anything about it. So this says, smash evil for fun and profit. Do you battle monsters to make the world a safer place, earn personal honor, or experience the sheer thrill of combat? Do you crave lost lore, power, or simply a chance to loot the bodies? Whatever your quest, Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game provides everything you need to brave dark dungeons and face the dangers within. Adventures, 128 pages. Create the ideal... Adventurers, 128 pages. Create the ideal alter ego. Pick from among 11 professions and 9 races. Choose from over 100 weapons, more than a dozen kinds of armor, and hundreds of other items. Customize everything, abilities, and gear. Exploits, 112 pages. Rules for fighting, exploration, sneaking, trading, and many other feats. For bad things like traps, hazards, and combat injuries. And for good things, especially treasure. Capped off with advice on creating dungeons and running the game. Spells, 80 pages. Over 350 magic spells for your bards, clerics, druids, and wizards. Monsters, 64 pages. More than 75 fiendish foes, many with subtypes and variants, careful classifications, dozens of detailed special abilities, and tactical advice. Makes it easy to use these monsters or to invent new ones. Dungeon, 24 pages. A ready-to-run introductory adventure, which maybe one day I'll get to run. Maps, 2 large double-sided maps to game out battles. Counters, more than 100 stand-up cardboard figures with 12 plastic bases let you represent your heroes on their travels. 3 6-sided dice, because everything in GURPS is 6-sided. What's left is you. Are you ready to slay monsters, grab their loot, and teach evil a lesson? So the Dungeon Fantasy Game Master, the Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game runs even better with the Dungeon Fantasy GM screen, which I do have over there as well. I typically pick up the Game Master screens when I pick up box sets like this. It also comes with a book of ready-to-play characters, delvers to go, and a guide to speedy character creation cheat sheet. Powered by GURPS means that the Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game is self-contained based on the generic universal role-playing system. You don't need GURPS to play, but it's compatible, letting you draw on hundreds of supplements for inspiration and support. So this is how GURPS does a box set, or how Steve Jackson Games does a box set for GURPS. Inside, GURPS also uses hexes. So we've got here, I wonder if I can raise this camera a little bit. Maybe I can do it with the GURPS box set box. Maybe that's a little bit better. Oh. So we've got some basic maps. GURPS uses hexes for its combat, especially its tactical combat. So if you're doing tactical combat, it's here. So these are some of the fold-out maps from the introductory adventure for you to put stuff. These are kind of basic. I got to say that. So we don't have a lot of cool detail about, what's inside the rooms or things like this. This looks like this is pretty basic. It's basically just a combat grid with some of the rooms on it. So that I was a little bit disappointed with. Well, how do I fold this back? But it does have one. It's got another one. Again, kind of in the same style. Does anybody else have this box set? Or just played with the GURPS Dungeon Fantasy? I know it's one of the most popular things that they've got. And that's what it makes sense. That, well, what do people like? Dungeon crawls. Crawling around in dungeons. Dungeon D&D. So if you're playing GURPS, well, what's the kind of stuff that you like? Well, maybe come over and play this. Now, see, this, I don't know. Dungeon Fantasy, I think this box set is out of print. And I think that most all of their stuff is print on demand now. So it's all PDFs and print on demand. So I don't really know that GURPS Dungeon Fantasy got a big boost during the OGL debacle, like maybe it could have. So again, kind of a basic. I think this is the main room for the opening main room for the intro adventure, but rather low in detail. It is a box that's full of stuff. And it's got multiple books inside. And I think all of these are the ones that came with it. We do have a few spacers in here. For the most part, it is a full box. So the books that come in it are spells. James says, it drives me barking mad up a wall when a hex map draws boundaries that don't keep the hex pattern intact. Really? Well, I think most of the, like over here where we've got like this type of organic shape over here, a lot of the hex-based systems will have rules for adjudicating, I'm sure GURPS does too, adjudicating what's up with partial hexes so that you know whether or not you can stand there or not. To me, it makes more sense, like, well, like over here, I don't know whether, you know, here's the straight wall, but we tend to have straight walls. So that's giving you half hexagons. But I think that's better than having the wall do something jagged, I think. Hey, George. Welcome. Good to see you. So, GURPS spells. We'll take a look at each one of these books in a second. But we got the spell book here. This is exploits. So this should be like how to play. Yeah, this is basically your how to play guide. I smell a rat. That is your introductory adventure. Your monster manual. And then this is basically your player's guide, how to create your adventurers. Then we also have in here our character stand-ups. We got things like Demon from Between the Stars, Zombie, Corpse Golem, Zombie, Stone Golem, another zombie. Looks like a whole bunch of different rat counters here. Humongous Spider, Giant Spider. Cat Girl, Smuggler, Smuggler, Skeleton, Earth Elemental, Undead Man. Another Demon from Between the Stars, Smuggler. Over here looks like you have some of the heroes. Yeah, you got like Druid, Scout, Wizard, Holy Warrior, Cleric, Halfling, Swashbuckler, Half-Orc. Are they the same on both sides, or do you see their back? Oh, you do see their back. So it's different art on both sides. So you have front and rear art. Elf, Dwarf, Half-Ogre, Martial Artist, Barbarian, Scout, Bard, Knight, bunch of classics. And then it comes with, it said it only came up with 12 stands. I must have gotten some extra stands from someplace. Oh, I bet these stands these stands look like they come from someplace else. Yeah, that's a baggie of some kind. So those stands, they work just fine, but they come from someplace else. That's probably why I stuck them in here. But then we've got hexagonal stands, which I do like. So we got hexagonal combat grids. We've got hexagonal stands here. And I don't know if you can see, yeah, so there's actually an arrow indicating facing. Facing's kind of gone by the wayside, right? We don't really use facing a whole lot in RPGs. Maybe that's to our detriment. But I remember that being a big thing, especially like in MERP. And in GURPS, advanced combat facing is a big thing. So these allow you to track facing. And I thought it was nice they come with some colored ones. But like I said, I might have gotten some of these from a different place. Basic D6 dice. But it is nice to have some colored bases as well. So if you've got multiple of something, oh, the red zombie or something. Hey, good morning. It's Positive Fandom. Good morning. Good to see you. Everybody, RM over on the Positive Fandom channel has been playing the new Jedi. Oh, I'm not even sure the name of it. But the new Star Wars Jedi video game. I haven't been able to jump in and watch like I had previously with the Harry Potter one. But RM is streaming it quite a bit over there. Check it out. All right. So which one first? Oh, is there anything in here? Nope, nothing in there. So I thought that GURPS Dungeon Fantasy did a pretty good job. So this is what I would like to see in Jedi Survivor. Thank you. Jedi Survivor. I thought that GURPS Dungeon Fantasy did a good job of distilling what you need in order to play in this genre. Like I wish a lot of other GURPS books would do, or wish they had other GURPS books that did that for other genres. And they've got things like the GURPS Fantasy book, which actually is the newest one, kind of like their setting. In third edition, it was the generic. It was still rather generic. In that it's another guide for your game masters. Like if you're trying to run a fantasy game, what kind of information would you need? And there was stuff in there to extract because there are multiple different types of fantasy games that you could play. So, but this one actually got down to a specific genre about stuff that you would actually need to play. So this is some introductions, of course, the what is role-playing stuff, basics, professions, so character points. This is all point build. Professions. Oh, we should take a look at a character sheet. I might have characters over there. Just once. I'll look in just a second. But professions. So our professions, who are like our classes: barbarian, bard, cleric, druid, holy warrior, knight, martial artist, scout, swashbuckler, thief, and wizard. Giving you some classic things to play. Races. It allows you to play catfolk, dwarves, elves, half-elves, gnomes, half-ogre, half-orc, halflings. Advantages, disadvantages, skills, cash and gear. So this is in the genre of like where your character is skills, advantages, disadvantages, and attributes. I kind of started seeing that as a type of category. I've got a bunch of other Dungeon Fantasy books over here. Okay, so well, actually, here is the GM screen. I want to say characters might have been in here. Oh, yep, Delvers to go. That's it. Character creation cheat sheet. Fast character creation. And then actually a pretty good, this one didn't come in the box, but I thought this was a pretty dense GM screen, which I'm for. I always like having a lot of information inside the Game Master screen. The less you have to open a book, the better. So GURPS at least got that one right. Now, it doesn't have information for the players. It's just got art again. But at least it has a lot of information for the Game Master. So I'm for that. So they did a good job there. And what it's got in there. Well, I'll have to look how to fold that later. But okay, so character creation cheat sheet, Delvers to go. So this is actually what a GURPS Dungeon Fantasy character is like. Let's see. Apparently I have some duplicates of books because I got another spells. Although that's never bad because referencing extra spells at the table is always good. Monsters 2. Oh, it looks like I have another. I wonder why I have these. I don't know that I have another adventurer's book. Although that's not bad either, because if you're making characters, it's good to be able to hand people, have multiple copies of that book at the table. I wonder how that happened. I don't remember. Magic Items 2. companion and companion 2. So actually, there's quite a bit. I've got 2 of these companions. I wonder how that happened. I don't know. Companion and companion 2. So there's a lot of GURPS Dungeon Fantasy to look at. What is companion? Any Delver would agree more is better, and the Dungeon Fantasy Companion delivers. This companion includes all 3 stretch goal supplements created for the Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game for Kickstarter. Traps. Delvers hate them. I hate them in Hero Quest. Delvers hate them, but traps make for fun adventures. Good traps take time to devise, though. This collection gives the time-pressed GM nasty gadgets, complicated architecture, hidden poison, and malicious magic, plus devious tricks to challenge the wisest wizard. Magic items. Unlike traps, magical treasure, besides the curse stuff, is popular with delvers. But like traps, dreaming it up takes time. This emporium of enchantment helps with wondrous weapons, armor, wands, jewelry, potions, and more. Against the rat men, adventurers take serious time to design, so here's another. This sequel to I Smell a Rat offers the heroes new dangers and new rewards. Companion 2. So it's also pretty well supported. I mean, there are a lot of PDFs. If you do PDFs, which I do, I've got an extensive PDF collection. There's a lot of Dungeon Fantasy PDFs. So this was also a very well supported line. And as much as I like the GURPS system, I wish that it was in a better position, like I said, after the OGL debacle, to siphon off some Dungeon Fantasy players. So this is the Companion 2. Have the Delvers in your Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game campaign fought all the monsters and found all the loot? Do the players always know what to expect? Either way, the solution is more. Dungeon Fantasy Companion 2 delivers more stuff to make your game more interesting. Magic items, another 16 rare or unique artifacts to one to a page. Each with color art, a detailed description, and the rules and stats required to use and play, and advice on introducing it to the campaign. 6 new creatures as far as monsters go to match swords with heroes. And also 14 new foes. These foes could be heroes if they weren't bad guys. Bonus, many entries sneak into new content you can use with or without the associated artifact or enemy, including gear, abilities, racial templates, centaur, dark elf, infernal, lizard man, minotaur, and professions. Evil cleric and unholy warrior. Spells, monsters 2, adventurers. I think I looked at that. Magic items 2. I guess I don't have magic items 1. Then this right here, Pyramid Dungeon Collection. For 25 years, Pyramid Magazine has delivered incredible gaming material with each installment. So this was like a collection of like the best of stuff for Dungeon Fantasy. So there was a lot. If you were looking for something else and you were looking for GURPS, if you didn't know about Dungeon Fantasy, this is a good one. So here's Delvers to Go. So here is an example of what a GURPS Dungeon Fantasy character would be like. Let's find one to look at. What looks pretty classic? 247-point Elven Scout. Okay, so most GURPS Dungeon Fantasy characters are based on, let me lower this now, 250 points. But the Adventurer's book really helps you out not having to go absolutely point by point, because that's what slows down the character creations in point-based systems. So here's an example of an Elven Scout. Landor, you couldn't even pronounce his full name, is the stereotypical Elven Ranger. He keeps the wilderness safe for lions, tigers, and bears by using his high-powered bow to shoot firebugs and litter bugs from concealment. Like many hunters, he keeps trophies, specifically ears. His willingness to slay has earned him some enemies, so he's presently hiring out to adventurer parties as an archer, so long as they follow his lead on treks to and from dungeons. He doesn't care what they do in town. He can't stand crowds, and so won't go there anyway. So in GURPS, you've got strength, dexterity, IQ, and HT, which is health. So those are your core stats. Strength, dexterity, intelligence, and health. And then we've got secondary stats, which include damage. And your damage is based on your strength for both thrusting and swinging. So you've got thrusting damage, so that would be 1d -1 thrusting damage, 1d +1 swinging damage. And I've always liked that because then your weapon modifies your basic damage. A basic lift, that's your basic damage there. Basic lift, 24 pounds. You've got 11 HP. You're not doing inflationary hit points here. So a standard human's going to have 10. So if you have a little bit higher stats, you're going to have a little bit higher than that. But you're not going to be inflating your hit points throughout. So at 11 hit points, a will of 11, perception of 14, fatigue, you've got fatigue here, 12, basic speed, 7.25, basic move, 9, basic speed, that's going to be used like your initiative. Move of 7, basic move 9, move 7. He must have increased his basic move. Move is based off of basic speed. Dodge, your defense is dodge 9, parry 14 when using a staff, and he doesn't block because he doesn't have a shield. So then advantages that he's got include acute vision, appearance attractive, elven gear, forest guardian, heroic archer, majory level 0, outdoorsman level 2, signature gear bow, strong bow 1, weapon bond bow 1. Disadvantages include bloodlust. Oh, okay. So bloodlust 12. When you've got a 12 after that, what you're looking at is that's your self-control number. So the point value over here is negative 10 points for bloodlust. But you can adjust all of your different advantages and disadvantages, or your disadvantages, based on a self-control number. Like if you need to overcome that, how easy is it to overcome? So you can adjust that when you're creating your character. So in this case, bloodlust with a self-control number of 12, and you're trying to roll equal to or lower than. Callous loner, phobia of crowds, self-control of 12, sense of duty to adventuring companions, sense of duty to nature, vow, own no more than what can be carried, negative 10. Quirks include collects an ear from each slain foe, exploits his speed to run around shooting arrows in melees, respects druids, even dodgy ones with iffy advice, uses racial majory to check every bow and arrow for magic, and you can't pronounce my full name, negative 1. Skills over here include armory, missile weapons, bow. At a level of 21, we got a whole but 21 to 22. So let's see. The star says that asterisk says that includes +2 for forest guardian. Use higher for signature gear. Oh, so it's 22 when he's using his signature gear because that's +1 for weapon bond. Camouflage at level 16. Cartography, climbing, fast draw, arrow, gesture, hiking, jumping, knot tying, mimicry, navigation, observation, running, search, shadowing, staff, stealth, survival, tracking, traps, and weather sense. So that's basically what makes up your character in GURPS and in this particular category. You've got basic stats. Now you've got your attributes, but you also have secondary attributes that are derived from your primary stats. Advantages and disadvantages, and then all of your skills, and then plus equipment. So he's got 41.56 pounds of gear for light encumbrance. So arrows, bodkin point, fine bodkin point arrows, 25. Fine cutting point arrows, canteen, clothing, 18 copper coins, composite bow, elven rations, hip quiver, light cloth armor, miniature sundial, personal basics, pouch, and quarterstaff. And that's negative 10%. Some of this is negative 10% in weight because it's elven gear. Oh, so design notes for Landor the Gray. Landor's shtick is riddling things with arrows. Elven DX and Forest Guardian give skill 21. Weapon bond in his favorite bow yields 22. And Heroic Archer adds AC 3 for 25 without aim. Or ignore bulk negative 7 for 22 when running around. The negative 3 for rapid shooting is thus easily absorbed. The Forest Guardian also gives fast draw arrow. Thanks to strongbow, Landor uses strength 13 composite bow, which with fine arrows inflicts 1d plus 4 damage. That's quite a bit. Landor is traded in 3 quick quirk points for $1,500, so we can have the fancy bow and arrows and magic clothes. The other two bought more skills, letting him raise traps for the dungeon and have outdoor abilities. So that's what a GURPS character is like. GURPS Dungeon Fantasy specifically. So over here. Okay, good morning, Patrick. Dungeon Fantasy. So adventurers. So I got 2 of these books to give to somebody who is trying to create a character at the table. So like I said, I thought this did a good job of extracting, of turning all of this from one item by point into the classes of stuff that you need, like character templates, which I wish there were more GURPS things that did. So this tells you, I mean, there's still a lot here. I mean, this is for people who really want to get into something here. It tells you that this is a character point-based system. So everybody in Dungeon Fantasy is based on 250 points. Everything that you create costs character points. A genre convention of dungeon fantasy is that several things people care about in real life have no net impact on adventuring life, so normally they don't cost points. For example, age, handedness, height and weight, sex, skin, eye, and hair color. Those you can just pick, all of those things you can just pick as you like. Basic attributes, strength. See, strength is plus 10 points per level. Dexterity is plus 20 points per level, or negative 20 points, or negative 10 points if you're going the other direction, you want to have less. Intelligence is plus or minus 20 points, and health is plus or minus 10 points. Now, see, here, we talk about in Dungeon Fantasy or old school gaming, also 5th edition D&D and all of that, that dexterity is often too useful. That there's so much that depends on dexterity. Some of the games we've been looking at have tried to adjust that so that other things like wisdom, like putting missile fire under wisdom or something like that. But the way GURPS handles this is, because it's a point-based system, it's just saying dexterity costs more. Dexterity and intelligence are important, and so they cost more. That's the way it handles them. Strength and health are only plus 10 points per level. So you get those. Secondary characteristics include damage, like we talked about, your basic lift, your hit points. You can adjust your hit points at plus 2 points per level. Hit points represent your body's ability to sustain injury. Your hit points start equal to your strength, which I like. Hit points, your strength is the characteristic that is most regarding your physical size and body mass, which arguably is what would allow you to take damage like from a battle axe or something. So your hit points start equal to your strength, but you can increase HP for plus 2 points per plus 1, or reduce it for negative 2 points for plus 1. Maximum variation in either direction is normally 1/3 of strength rounded up. So someone with strength 10 starts with HP 10 and could vary by 4 HP either way, between 6 HP and 14 HP. So there you go. Now you've got some way to calibrate weapon damage. So an ordinary person, your normal man, we've talked about that before, the normal man. A normal man would have a strength of 10, which would give HP 10 ordinarily, but could have between 6 and 14. Now you calculate damage and everything else based off of that. I like that. Here's your damage table for swing and thrust based on your strength. Will, mental resistance, perception, fatigue points. Fatigue points rate your body's energy supply. Your fatigue points start equal to your HT, but you can increase your FP for 3 points per plus 1, or reduce it for 3 points per negative 1. Maximum of 1/3 variation from HT under normal circumstances. Basic speed, measure of reflexes, dodge. Basic move, that's your ground speed. Basic lift and encumbrance table. Norm L. Man. Yes. Now, GURPS, this still does use adding up weight for encumbrance and stuff. I would strip that out and go to a slot-based system. I think I would insert a slot-based system. Encumbrance and move size modifier. This is your basic size. Okay, but then professions over here. So we've got several different ones that it recommends. So instead of having to go and look at each individual thing, it groups these into archetypes, which is the advantage of something like classes. Barbarians, bards, clerics, druids, holy warriors, knights, martial artists, scouts, swashbucklers, thieves, and wizards. So the professional template groups together traits that a character needs to fill the shoes of that specific profession capably. Its sections are attributes and secondary characteristics, a set of scores optimized for the profession's key tasks. Remember that if you change your attributes, your secondary characteristics will change to reflect this. Advantages that they may have, disadvantages that they may have, and then also job skills. Special skills, spells, if any. And then it gives you how to customize these if you would like. But there's customization built in. So let's say you want to play a barbarian. Jonathan Reith says, yep, weight matters in GURPS, but you could specifically just calculate combat weight, generally assuming you ditch your pack, etc. for fighting. Yes, that's another way to do it. Just say that, okay, well, now what is it you're actually carrying around as far as your when in combat, which obviously in Dungeon Fantasy you're going to get into a lot. So your combat weight, and then hand wave more of the stuff that you're just like supplies and things like this. So let's say that you wanted to play a barbarian. There's still plenty of customization. In fact, more customization than is in something like Dungeons and Dragons. But it gets you to it. So it says, barbarian, you're a beefy tribal raider from somewhere distant and a little backwards, probably the frozen north or steamy south. You blend physical grit with a connection to nature. As the big tough hero, you can withstand almost any punishment, even danger's armor can't stop, making you essential as a knight in combat. Yet you're also a proficient outdoorsman, as crucial as the druid and scout in outdoor situations. So it suggests, remember, we're going off 250 points here. Strength of 17 for 70 points, a dex of 13 for 60 points, leave IQ at 10, that's 0 points, that'll be basic, HT 13 for 30 points. Then that gives your secondary characteristics. With a strength of 17, you're thrusting for 1d plus 2 damage, but you can swing for 3d minus 1 damage. Remember, you've got only between about 10 hit points, between 6 and 15 for normal man. And your basic swing damage is 3d minus 1. So at strength 17, you can lay down some hurt with melee weapons. Jonathan Reese says, GURPS Dungeon Fantasy shows basically how to make GURPS into a class-based system. Yeah. And I'm for it. Because I'm for that. Because as much as I used to love and still do in a sense, but, sitting down with the GURPS book and trying to make everything, like just looking at every single line, you don't need to. Like, we need more setting books that strip out, as much as I love the GURPS books, for playability, stripping out exactly what you need. And it's the game masters who are willing to do that. That's why it should be more open. I say that all the time, because the people who would be willing to sit down with the GURPS book, like myself, and say, hey, you know what, I'm doing Theophany. I used to do that with Lord of the Rings. I wish I could still find my GURPS Lord of the Rings stuff. But I'm afraid that that's been long lost on previous hard drives. But the people who are willing to sit down and do that should be able to do that. And then let's get that out to people who would otherwise be interested in the GURPS system and its flexibility, but want to get much more targeted to what exactly they want. And, I find that if you sit down with the GURPS book and hey, let's create a fantasy character. What do you generally create anyway? Or a sci-fi character or anything. You generally create something from an archetype anyway. I mean, how often is it that you sit down to create some kind of GURPS character or anything from a point-based system, and you sit down and you say, excuse me, I'm going to create something completely new. I'm going to create something that has never been done before. Well, highly unlikely. It's probably even based off of something, you know, like the Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or Conan or something like that. So let's go ahead and get you to that faster, because I don't like character creation to take more than 15 minutes. It's difficult. It may still be difficult in this to get down to 15 minutes. But the closer you can get the person to the target type of character, the better. And then give them some options to vary it. Jonathan Reese says, the beauty of this setup is that you can just plunk down the templates and run, or you can start with the template and shape it however you want, since you have all the point info right there in the template. Yes, exactly. This gets you to the barbarian. And if you're like, no, but I really want my barbarian to be something a little bit different in this specific area. Okay, well, then you can do it. Spend your time making those customizations. Let's get you to barbarian. Among the Damned says, good morning, Heath. Like what you said, interview with Destructo on building new game. Like what you said, interview with Indestructiboy on building new game creator, assuming each person advocating for each other via YouTube for our Kickstarter games and novels. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're trying here. I would like to say that this channel and the Morning Grind specifically is big into that. Building what we want and supporting a lot of independent creators for whatever it is that we're doing in the Geekverse. So thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Good morning among the damned. Great to have you here. Thank you. So for instance, so this also tells us, that based on that, we just said damage. We just talked about that. We have a basic lift of 58 pounds. He's going to have 22 hit points. So he's going to have the serious chunk of hit points. But still, don't expect that person to get more. So he's going to have more hit points because he is huge in size. I mean, he's strength 17. So he's got a lot of body to soak up a hit from a club or whatever else. And it looks like, in keeping with the barbarian trope, he's increased his hit points. It costs 10 extra points to increase his hit points a little bit more. So the barbarian is playing the beefy hit point role. But like I said, don't expect to get more hit points as you play. That's topping out. Will 10, perception 10, fatigue 13, basic speed of 6. Oh, he slowed himself down a little bit for negative 10 points. Move 6. Advantages include high pain threshold and outdoorsman 2. A further 40 points chosen from among the following. So this is telling you how to customize it right here. So you start with high pain threshold and outdoorsman 2. We want to look up and see what those are. These things should be in the back here, right? So it starts you off with high pain threshold. Oh, I'm in skills. Which seems right for a barbarian type. Oh, wait, these are disadvantages. High pain threshold. You aren't as susceptible to injury as anyone else, but you are as susceptible to injury as anyone else, but you don't feel it as much. You suffer no shock penalty for injury and half the normal penalty drop factions for any sort of pain. You also get +3 on HT rolls to avoid knockdown, and on all rolls to resist physical torture, spells to inflict pain, and so on. Sounds very barbarian-like. And outdoorsman 2. Outdoorsman, 10 points per level. You have great rapport with the great outdoors. You get +1 per level, maximum of 4, to the camouflage, disguise, animals, fishing, mimicry, animal sounds and bird calls, naturalist, navigation, survival, tracking, and weather sense skills. You also get +1 per level on HT rolls to avoid harm when failure with one of those skills exposes you to cold, poisonous berries, etc. Now, he only has an HT of 13, because that's his health. But you're going to notice that he's getting these bonuses to his HT for high pain threshold when it matters and outdoorsman when it matters. But then plus another 40 points chosen from the following. So this lets you choose, I'm the barbarian and I want to customize myself. All right, you got 40 points picked from this list right here. You can increase your strength further, dex further, HP. You could increase any of those further. include such things as absolute direction, acute senses, animal empathy, combat reflexes. That might be one that a lot of barbarians would take. Discriminatory smell, hard to kill. Hard to kill sounds like a good barbarian one. Magic resistance, increase your outdoorsman level, take rapid healing or very rapid healing, recovery, resistant to disease, signature gear, if you wanted some type of sword, like maybe like Conan's two-handed sword or something, take some signature gear and get yourself a nice sword. Temperature tolerance, tough skin, trademark move, or weapon bond. So you've got plenty of room to customize here. In fact, arguably, like I said, more room to customize here than you do in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Now, there's elegance and simplicity to something like the old school when we're just going through with our stats from our classes, and aren't doing a lot of customization. We didn't have a lot of customization in all the OSR stuff. You have more customization as you level up in D&D, but you got customization right here. Then you've got social stigma, disadvantaged social stigma, minority group, and then another negative 10 points from among the following: easy to read, gullibility, illiteracy, odious personal habits, which is unrefined manners, phobia of machinery, or wealth struggling. And then a further 20 points chosen from among the previous traits, or you could take berserk and bloodlust. That also seems pretty good for a barbarian. Bad temper, also very barbarian-like. Gluttony, overconfidence, obsession, slay some specific type of monster or become a master with my weapon. Sense of duty to my adventuring companions or to nature, or you could have some type of wound that you're recovering from. So instead of looking through the entire GURPS book for what your barbarian should be, just go to this page. It might still take most people longer than 15 minutes because there's still a lot of options. Skills. One of these two 20-point melee skill packages. So select the skill package. Either two-handed weapon, any one of polearm, spear. Okay, so if you want to be the two-handed weapon specialist, select one of polearm, spear, two-handed axe or mace, two-handed flail, or two-handed sword. GURPS does use a whole bunch of skills for different types of weapons. So choose any one of, do you want to be the polearm person, the spear person, two-handed axe or mace, two-handed flail, or two-handed sword? Or you could be a sword and shield type, in which case choose one of axe and mace, broadsword, flail, or spear, and also take shield. That gets your primary, that covers your primary weapon there. But then one of these range skills, do you want to be good with bolas, bows, slings, spear thrower, throwing, or thrown weapon? So pick one of those range skills. Take all of the following skills: brawling, camouflage, disguise, fishing, hiking, intimidation, mimicry, naturalist, navigation, running, stealth, sumo wrestling or wrestling, survival, swimming, tracking, and weather sense. And then also pick 4 of these skills. So pick 4 among animal handling, carousing, climbing, first aid, forced entry, gesture, lifting, observation, seamanship, skiing, strategy, or tactics. That's a great way to build out a barbarian, I think. I mean, to take everything from GURPS and put it into, it's kind of a class-based system. The templates here, the very customizable templates. Customization notes. Many barbarian archetypes exist. The savage berserker has more strength, extra physical grit like HT, and hard to kill, and such disadvantages as berserk and bloodlust. The primal survivalist goes for more perception and outdoorsman, discriminatory smell, and disadvantages like illiteracy and reduced wealth. The noble wilderness guardian prefers animal empathy, animal friend, fearless, and disadvantages like overconfidence and sense of duty. Choose weapon skills that underline the desired feel. The stereotypical Dark Ages warrior might have axe, mace, and shield, and thrown weapon, axe and mace. A caveman or jungle warrior would probably prefer spear and thrown weapon, spear. Oh, there's a bit more here. So match survival specialty and other skill choices to the origin too. An ocean raider from the frozen north will want survival Arctic, seamanship, and skiing. A jungle gorilla in leopard skin will find survival jungle gesture and observation more useful. Since any weapon is deadly at strength 17, you don't need pricey swords, axes, sticks, and clubs and sticks. Clubs will do. Oh, axes, sticks, and clubs will do. Unlike other warriors, consider using the 5 points that quirks give you to strengthen your archetype instead of for extra money. For example, that jungle warrior might buy 2 more levels of camouflage and another level of stealth. Strong and sneaky is a dangerous mix. So discriminatory smell, what does that mean? You may memorize a scent by sniffing it and making a successful IQ roll. Success means you'll automatically recognize it thereafter. On a failure, you must wait 1 full day before trying again. You also get +4 to any task that utilizes the sense of smell, notably detecting poison, and receive +4 to tracking skills. Temperature tolerance, tough skin. So tough skin is actually your body has damage resistance. GURPS has damage resistance. Armor as damage resistance, which I always like. So barbarians can actually have damage resistance. Remember, we're talking about the dungeon fantasy kind of environment here and tropes. So we got the same thing. We do the same thing for bards, for clerics, for druids, for holy warriors, which is like our paladin, for a knight, which is basically like the fighter here. It says, although you're not necessarily an avowed chevalier, you're more warrior than some castle-dwelling fop. Also, knight sounds better than fighter, so generic, or thug, offensive. You're as skilled as the swashbuckler, yet like the barbarian, you favor heavier weapons. Unlike them, however, you have the good sense to wear full armor. You're into delving to prove your mettle, but the loot doesn't hurt. Given the price of decent weapons and armor. The martial artist, which is like the monk. Scout, you've been called archer, stalker, and tracker. Although you filled all 3 roles, such labels do not do justice to your full expertise. Swashbuckler. You're living proof the sword is mightier, speedier, and more stylish than, well, everything. In the time it takes the plotting knight to strike its first blow, you've struck 2, and with more flair. And while you respect the martial artist's precision, you prefer to bring a sword to a sword fight. You like nothing better than to leap and tumble through battle, blade a blur, deftly covering the party's flanks and rear. Thief here. Wizard. And there we go. So that's our class breakdown. Races. Understanding racial templates. So it says, so most people are human. It says humans aren't the only intelligent humanoids in dungeon fantasy. Many non-human races, that is species, inhabit dungeons and other sinister places. These are normally suitable as opponents for delvers. These are races that most townsfolk consider people and that monsters usually regard as enemies. The chapter describes several of these. If the GM agrees, players may create delvers who belong to any of these races. This is a complication, however, so ask the GM first. So humans kind of standard, but each race has a racial cost. To belong to a race, you must pay this out of the points your professional template allocates to advantage choices. Buying a racial template usually means having fewer professional advantages. If you can't quite afford a racial template that way, you can chip in points earned from quirks. If your professional template offers a discretionary budget for skills, you can also use some of that too. So, for example, thieves can get 30 points of advantage choices, 7 points in skill choices, and 5 points in quirks, like everyone. They can swing 42 points for a racial template. The catfolk template costs 40 points. A thief could just manage it by making some sacrifices. You can only buy 1 racial template. If you buy no racial template, it just assumed that you are mostly human. So likewise, racial templates can influence your ability modifiers, secondary attributes, advantages, disadvantages, and also might have other features. We've got Catfolk for 40 points. We've got the classic dwarf here for 20 points. Hey, good morning, Andrew. Dwarves get +1 HT. They get +3 fatigue. They get -1 movement. They get dwarven gear, lifting strength 2, night vision 5, pickaxe penchant for 5, resistant to poison 6, and tough skin 1. They do have greed with a self-control roll of 12, and stubbornness also with a self-control roll of 12. And then also armor isn't interchangeable with human armor. So dwarven gear, 10% off the final price of gear qualified as dwarven armor, such as rations, such as armor, rations, shields, weapons, whetstones, etc. Lifting strength is identical to that as described under barbarian. What is pickaxe penchant? You're natural at fighting, bashing, and mining with axes and picks and axes. Add +1 per level to the axe mace forced entry, prospecting, thrown weapon, and two-handed axe mace skills. Also add +1 per level to dodge or DX to avoid falling rocks, collapsing walls, buried alive, etc. You may buy up to 3 more levels in play for 5 points each. Tough skin, just like the barbarian we said. Elves we've got, they cost 20 points. Half elves cost 20 points. Gnomes, half ogres, half orcs, halflings. And then we have our list of advantages. Half cost for a dwarf. Is that a short joke? Yeah, these racial templates here are very much, I think, the classic dungeon. Well, I mean, it's what they're supposed to be. The classic OSR kind of inspired dungeon templates. Like when I did my Lord of the Rings elf template, they were expensive. They were like 250 points or something. All of our advantages. So you can see what they are when you see disadvantages. All of the skills. Like I said, it's a skill-based game. You're primarily rolling against an attribute or probably a skill. Cash and gear. Buying and selling. So here's all your equipment and equipment prices. So for like, here are your weapon stats. So if you want a bastard sword, if you take a bastard sword, this is there are 2 different ways to use it. You can swing it or you can thrust it. So this tells you that swing +1, it does cutting damage. So a bastard sword is swing +1 cutting damage. So you take a look at your cutting damage. That barbarian was 3D -1 on swing. So that's just 3 dice worth of damage on a swing with a bastard sword. Or thrusting it for your thrust damage +2 impaling. Reach over here, this tells you how far you can reach. So C is close. And then that's the number of hexes as well. 1 hex or 2 hexes. Parry, you can parry with it, but it becomes unready after you parry. Its cost, its weight, and then the strength required to use it. The minimum strength needed to use the weapon properly. If you use a weapon that requires more strength than you have, you suffer a -1 weapon skill per point of strength deficit and lose 1 extra FP at the end of the fight. That's 1 extra fatigue. And what you're looking at here is this is the skill. So for instance, the polearm skill up here allows you to fight with dueling glaive, dueling halberd, glaive, halberd, monk's spade, naginata, or poleaxe. And you can see that all skills do default to different things. So if you have the polearm skill, you can use it. Or you can fight at your dexterity -5. If you find yourself needing to use a halberd, but you don't have the polearm skill, you can use your dexterity -5 to fight with the halberd. Or it defaults to spear -4 or staff -4 or two-handed axe mace -4. So if you don't have the polearm skill and you find yourself needing to use one, you can default to whatever those is your best default. Poor halflings, at a disadvantage no matter what the game system is usually. Or should be at a disadvantage for less than 4 feet tall at 100 pounds. Hit point strength should suffer at least. You want to see what they did with halflings? Half elf. No, is halfling in here? Oh, yeah, halfling is down here. So halfling actually has a racial cost of 0. Halfling costs nothing. Halflings are half human height, whence the name. They enjoy food, stealing, drink, sneaking, tobacco, and shooting things. While most are rosy-cheeked and good-natured, there are plenty of sallow, evil-tempered halflings. Given their natural predilections, they gravitate toward organized crime. Mobster halflings like little better than whacking rival gangsters, grabbing the dough, and enjoying a spaghetti dinner afterwards. Halflings range from 2'5" to 3'6" in height, with weights between 45 and 150 pounds. Average ones are 2 feet 7 inches tall to 3 feet tall and weigh 60 to 90 pounds. They're extremely stocky, but even so have a size modifier of -2. Their armor is no lighter than the size modifier 0 kind, but not interchangeable with it, and halflings usually stick to light armor owing to their low strength. So you have to take strength -3, so you lower your strength by 3 for -30 points. You get +1 to your dexterity for 20 points, and you get +1 to your HT for 10 points. Your size modifier is -2. You get +2 HP. You get +2 hit points. Interesting. Basic move, -1, so you move slower. Your advantages include halfling marksmanship for 10, honest face 1, silence 2. Disadvantages include gluttony with a self-control roll of 12 and kleptomania with a self-control roll of 12. Features hairy feet, armor interchangeable only with that of SM2 races. So halfling marksmanship, you're a crack shot with a ranged weapon. Add +1 per level to the bow, sling, throwing, and thrown weapons, dart, knife, and stick skills. Also add +1 per level to reaction rolls, merchant rolls, and streetwise rolls when trying to buy or sell a ranged weapon at a favorable price. You may buy up to 2 levels more in play for up to 5 points per level. Silence says it's identical to the scout ability of the same name. See page 35. So they move quietly. So that's it. So that's halflings. 0 cost, 0 net cost. Yeah. Weapon modifiers. Things like, well, balanced. A bow harp. A bow that can be used either as a weapon or a harp on a given turn. Used by bards. Adds 1.5 pounds to bow weight. Any bow but not crossbows. Climber's Dwarven. Changes a parry of 0 unready to 0, letting a weapon that you can't normally parry an attack on the same turn do just that. Doesn't prevent the weapon from becoming unready after attacking. Elven lets a bow shoot at +2 to strength for range and damage purposes. Fine, -1 to odds of breakage. Meteoric. Meteoric iron is immune to magic, blade turning, missile shield, magic, steel wraith, and so forth won't stop it. And making and breaking spells can't destroy it. It can't be magical. Compose a power item or benefit from weapon enhancing skills. Oh, here's another word for our pronunciation. Orichalcum. This word right here. Orichalcum. I don't think I've ever said that out loud before. Orichalcum. Orichalcum weapons won't break. Ordinary orichalcum weapons have +2 to odds of breakage when pairing heavy orichalcum ones. Ornate silver weapons, very fine weapons. Shields and shield modifiers. Armor tables. No height, no cost makes sense indeed. And the negative strength, except for bonus hit points for being 60 pounds. Orichalcum. James says orichalcum. Where is that from? So make the CH a K or a calcum. That does sound better. I don't know where that's from. Armor. So for armor, for instance, okay, so if we're over here, here's scale armor. Here is DR, it says 4/3. And it says you should use the lower DR against crushing attacks. So it's ordinary 3, but if it's against crushing attacks, it's a DR. It's ordinarily 4, DR of 3 against crushing attacks. Head, full face. Oh. So this is talking about, okay, so this is saying head, full face, body, arms, hands, legs, feet, suit, and other notes. So this allows you to customize it. Didn't we look at this? Mountain copper, I believe the translations. It's bronze, Latin word from the Romans. Oh, okay. So it's not something from some fantasy story. Or a calcum. Oh, cool. I'm going to have to use that then. I'll have to start using that. So this allows you, what we were looking at, oh yeah, it was Dark Sun that had like armor by piece or something like that. So you got the same thing here if you want it. You can customize your suit of armor. For example, Jorge is wearing a plate helmet on his head and segmented plate gauntlets on his hands. For his body, he opts for a brigandine breastplate with half the cost and weight of body armor. To cover his back, he gets heavy cloth body armor and decides it's actually a shirt with sleeves to protect the arms. Body and arm pieces add up to $233, 18.6 pounds, and give the body and back of his give his arms and back of his body DR2 and plus 2 DR. Total of DR7, which is really good, on the front. Finally, he buys leather armor for his legs and feet, declaring it's a pair of seriously high boots that adds up to $164, 13.2 pounds, and gives DR2 on the legs and feet. Total cost and weight comes to $2,057, 49.7 pounds, and layered torso armor means -1 to DX, while metal head and body armor will give him -2 to reactions in town. Modifiers for dragon armor, or armor in general, such as dragon hide, dwarven, elven, fine, meteoric armor. Other items. Chemical concoctions, magic items, potions, sample characters. Oh, there are sample characters at the back here. All right. Well, that's a pretty decent look at GURPS Dungeon Fantasy, don't you think? These halflings are orichalcum skinned. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? So that's what's in there. Like I said, someday, maybe when I feel better prepared in the mornings, we'll run some sample combats. I don't know how to close this back up. We'll run some sample folds like that. Got it. And it'd be interesting to run the sample combat. I like the GURPS combat, but it seems like every time I try to run one or show somebody, oh, here's what we're doing, they're like, no, let's not do this. What are some of these other books? And it's kind of a chill morning. So that's that. Monsters. But we have Mold. Yeah, we have a bunch of classics in here, I suppose. Adventurers. I Smell a Rat. Spells. GURPS spells are all based on like a skill. So a spell would be a skill. So for instance, if you're going to, I don't know, what's one? Light. Okay, so light. What is regular? Let's see. Produces a small light like a candle flame. Stays still unless you concentrate, which lets you move it at a move of 5. Duration 1 minute. Cost 1 to cast. You're going to be casting your fatigue. You're using your fatigue. You should be using fatigue to cast spells. 1 to maintain. Prerequisites. Clerical That's power investiture 1, or if you're doing this through wizardly magic, that'd be majory 0. I don't know, probably underappreciated, I think. I think an underappreciated kind of game. What do you think? Especially, it seems like our group kind of liked the GURPS system when we were looking at like mass combat and stuff and such. What is in here in this dungeon collection? What's in our locations? Oh, so it's got extra locations in here. Section 2, advice and ideas. The Cursed Ring, Chaos and Ritual, Magic Ingredients Revisited, Ride the Tiger. Section 3, Adventures, The Labyrinth of 5 Essences, The Search for Ed. The Search for Ed. Ed's lost in the evil temple. Got to go find him. The Torturer's Apprentice. Now I'm bothered that I don't have Magic Items 1. The Hermetic Cauldron. Instant Zombie. Coin of Fate. When I'm doing this kind of stuff, I always get so excited to try to write. But then like I said, work's just not been doing like this. Among the Dead says, I like the art. Once I put out my first project, if it's a success, I will upgrade my Fiverr artist for better art. Upgrade. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to do with the art for the Tales of Rabavania World Primer. I might have to get Adam on some new art for it because I haven't had quite success like using the models, using diffusion model to generate the right kind of armor. So we will have to see. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. I think I'm going to call it a little bit earlier today, but I hope that you've enjoyed this. We may have to return to this. If you do want to return to this or look into this in more detail, let me know. Like I said, I think I like this genre. I like this genre of game, which is the attributes, advantages, disadvantages, and skills. I like that genre of game. GURPS is the most, arguably the most simulationist of those. So GURPS would be simulationist. Fate is also in that genre. Fate is more narrative, whereas something like Savage Worlds is also in this genre, and it's more gamist, I would say. So, yeah, James, as I enjoyed this, I enjoy GURPS in general. So this is a category, and this is kind of the category that I was also working on Faded Edge in. This kind of category, although I was also working in more of the gamist side than the simulationist side. But I think that's why I think about GURPS and Fate together quite a bit. And also, for some reason, Savage Worlds doesn't stick with me. I remember it better now that we went over the Pathfinder Savage Worlds. But it's the same kind of gaming style, I think. All right, everybody. I'm going to try to do a reset today. I got cleaning to do, but I hope to also sit here and write. We will see. Also, please do, if you've come by, let me just drop the Raven Keep Discord server link in here. Please do come by the Discord server. And then also, please check out Goodnight Sword. I would love to have you on Goodnight Sword. And like I said, you can go over there, and it's the animated audiobook is embedded right there. So you can already check it out and listen to it. And if you've got somebody to share it with, if you know a child who would like it, you can share it immediately. And then this is just the start. I'm trying to plan out where do we go from here, because I want to start doing the game stuff for our different worlds. Probably Rabavania will be up first, because I've already been working on the world primer. But then we need to work on Heaven and Hell, and we need to work on some Cthulhu stuff. So have a wonderful day. Yep, you too, Among the Damned. Have a wonderful day. I will see you here tomorrow morning at 9:30. I don't know what we'll be looking at, but I'll see you tomorrow morning, 9:30 Central. Until then, be productive, be creative, and grind on. Later, everybody.